Lions Tour match number 2, and they're in South Africa. It's the commentator's dream. It's the British and Irish Lions taking on the Lions, the Emirates Lions, based in Joburg. It's the game this Saturday. It's Sunday for us here in New Zealand, 4 o'clock in the morning, happily. I think that's like 6 p.m. local time in South Africa. The bottom team in the Rainbow Cup from the South African side of things, up against the British and Irish Lions, who are coming off a 28 points to 10 victory over Japan. Although, to be fair, they're going to be wearing the same jersey, but it's essentially a different team that Gats has selected. We'll go through the selections. I will chuck those in the description for both sides. We'll talk about some of the stats from last week and the predictions for this one. If you guys are keen on predictions, we're running a Super Brew pool for the British and Irish Lions tour, so I'll put a link to that down in the comments if you know your predictions. But yeah, the Lions against the Lions. As I said, the Lions from South Africa didn't have their best time of it in the Rainbow Cup. They finished with a 1-1-4 record, 4 being the losses. So it was a little bit hairy for them. And to be fair, when I look at this lineup, a few unfamiliar names for me and a youngish looking squad, there does seem to be a bit of strength on the bench, which is good, especially their front row. But the Lions were a powerhouse in Super Rugby a few years ago, but it's a much different lineup from the one we saw back then. McBeth, Botha, and Dreyer are the front rowers. Dreyer is probably the most familiar to you guys up in the Northern Hemisphere, former Springbok, single-digit caps, and used to play up in Gloucester, I think it was, when Ackerman was up there. Proper powerhouse, tight head prop, mostly focusing on his scrummaging. And McBeth and Botha are both like 23 years old, so that's what I mean about being youthful. So Dreyer's your experienced man with a couple of young guys. Schoeman and Nothnagel are the locks. There's a bit of tall timber there. No one's quite as tall as old Johnny Hill from the Lions, but yeah, it's not. I mean, they're obviously missing some guys with the Springbok squad, but yeah, it's not as an experienced lock-in duo as you would like to see. And then Lucy's, Sangweni, Tshituka, and Horn. Again, like 20 years old is Sangweni. I don't think I've even seen him play. He's a South African under-20s player. Horn is captain and he's 22. Tshituka is also pretty young, but he is proper athletic, good at the breakdown, gets through a lot of work, and he's pretty quick with ball in hand as well. So of all the forwards, he's probably the one to watch, is old Tshituka. I'm not actually sure if he's South African eligible, because he's been in South Africa for a while, but he wasn't born there, so I'm not sure what's the state of his passport, but he may be one to look out in the future. But that being said, the Springboks have got a ton of loose forwards, so it's going to be a hard job to get into any Springbok squad at the moment. Backs, Dylan Smit and Jordan Hendrikse. Jordan Hendrikse at 10 is a very exciting pick. Again, very inexperienced, very young, but he's a proper exciting, likes to run the ball pretty quick, full-on attacking number 10. Like if you're thinking South African 10s, you're thinking Morné Steyn. Don't think Morné Steyn. Who's the equivalent? I'm not sure. But he's a proper attacking 10. So a very fun guy to watch if he can actually get some ball. The midfield is Odendaal and Rass. Rass is 23 years old. Don't know a lot about him actually, but Odendaal has been around the blocks with the Lions and the Bulls previously, I think, for quite some time. Kind of a no-frills midfielder, very solid, takes the ball into contact, pretty solid defensively, and he may have to be if the Lions, being the British and Irish Lions, get a fair bit of ball. Outside backs, Maxwane, Ulengo, and Viljoen. Different wingers, with Maxwane being like proper out-and-out pace man, some good footwork. Ulengo is a bit more of a big old unit. I think he's played for the Blitz box before, but he's solid. He's a 100-plus kilo winger, and he can move. So he'll be one to keep the Lions, that's the British and Irish Lions, busy. And Viljoen, bit of a utility guy. Maybe he's become more of a full-time fullback these days, but yeah, again, I haven't been watching these Lions for a wee while intently. I do like the bench with Visagie as the reserve hooker, Sithole and Sadie as the front row replacements. I think maybe that's a potentially better front row than the starting front row, but again, I haven't watched these Lions for ages. But Sadie is a proper good scrummager as well, so look for him to come on and make some impact. Dan Kriel's on the bench. Zeilinga has a bit of experience there, and so on. Now, for the British and Irish Lions, it's almost like they've gone ahead and picked like a fantasy team in certain positions. Like the fact that you got Finn Russell, Lewis Rees-Zammit, Sam Simmons all on the same team, like proper attacking flair players all round. Hogg's there as well. it's much changed from last week. Front row is Wyn Jones, Jamie George, and Kyle Sinclair. That's last week's front row bench replacements who get a start in this game. Etoje and Hill are both into the squad fresh after joining up from their Premiership and Championship teams, respectively. So they weren't in the squad last week, so it's an English duo there. I mean, Johnny Hill's the biggest guy on the field, I would say, in terms of height, so look for him for that kind of maul disruption and whatnot if he can get over the top. That's if the Lions try to maul him. Traditionally, it's been one of their strengths in recent years. Laws, Watson, and Faletau are 6, 7, and 8. Laws and Faletau were on the bench last week, and Watson is fresh into the squad. He was initially named to play at Murrayfield, but missed out their injury. So good to see him get a crack. He's going to get through a ton of tackles, you would imagine. And with Laws there at blindside, when they played Tyke Burn there last week. So Gat seems to like his big tall timber at 6 as well. So their lineout should be solid, and it was at 100% last week against Japan. 9 and 10 is Price and Russell, so they should have a bit of familiarity, both Scottish internationals. Price was on the bench last week. Finn Russell is fresh into the squad. He also had a bit of an ankle thing last week, so they were considering him last week, but decided to give him the extra week's rest, which is probably a good idea, seeing as you don't want anybody else missing the tour, with like Alan Wynn and Tipuric already out. Farrell and Chris Harris are the 12-13 combo, so how Farrell and Finn Russell kind of play off each other at 10 and 12 is going to be a fun one to see. Both, pretty good playmakers in their own right. And Chris Harris should keep the midfield channel pretty solidly well defended, because that's kind of what he's renowned for. Josh Adams is the only guy who I think started last week who starts this week. He moves from the right to the left wing. Lewis Rees-Zammit finally gets a crack. Finally, it's in a second game. But for us who want to see him play, finally on the right wing, and Hogg is there, and he's captain at fullback. So there's no Murray in the squad this week after he started last week, being named tour captain, but he's not going to play every game. Obviously, Gats needs to give everyone some minutes. Cowan-Dickie, Vunipola, and Fagerson is the front row replacements. Equally, that's a pretty bloody good front row to bring on. It should be if it's a Lions team. Henderson drops to the bench as the lock cover. Sam Simmons, as I mentioned, gets his first time in a Lions jersey, albeit on the bench. He'll be looking to add a bit of pace, from some potentially tired legs. Gareth Davis, Bundyaki drops to the bench, and Staeuli is in the squad as well. So it's hard to read too much into how the Lions are going to play based on it being a whole new squad. But as I said, the fact that you've got Finn Russell running the show should be a pretty exciting one. And it's a young Lions squad, this Lions squad. So they may get some points put on them pretty early. If they can keep it tight for the first, 20 minutes, that may bode well. But if the Lions from the British and Irish territory get off to a flyer, it could be a really long day at the office. The Lions, the British and Irish ones, tackled at 85.8% last week, so that's kind of the marker that they set down. They should be even better this week, given they're up against what should be lesser opposition, not a fully international team, but you never know. And as I mentioned, their breakdown work was phenomenal last week. They won a heap of turnovers against Japan. Their lineup operated phenomenally well, 100%, so yeah, should be a tasty one. Rugby Forecast, the algorithm has got the British and Irish Lions by 18 points. The bookies over here in New Zealand have got the British and Irish Lions by 25 points. So they are predicted to kind of run away with this one. They did seem to take their foot off the gas, or Japan came into it a bit last week. So we will see if that Emirates Lions front row is able to get on and cause a bit of havoc and maybe put some worry into the British and Irish guys' thoughts. But as I said, with a young starting 15 for the Emirates Lions, they could be behind early and it may not matter by the time they come on. But anyway, we'll see. I am very much looking forward to this one, to see how the Lions get on against the Lions. Commentator's absolute dream. Anyway, you guys let me know how you think this one is going to go. Like this video if you got all the way through it. That would be greatly appreciated. And I will talk to you again soon. See you later.